Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Build your army decks, dominate opponents in player versus player action, collect and upgrade cards to fit your strategy, improve their power and unlock unique traits. Choose from all 40k factions, take part in campaigns based on iconic 40k battles, rise to the top of the leaderboard and win glory. Free to download and play. Link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Right, welcome to this complete army video for the DRUKHARI. So in this video here I'm going to go through all of the units. We're going to build up the army list for them, talk about army strategy, warlord traits, stratagems, relics, tactics for all the units, and then how the army is going to come together and sort of the overall battle plan as well. It's all going to be covered in this video. You can take elements of what I cover here and apply it to your own DRUKHARI force. You can copy the list entirely and experiment with it on the battlefield as well. And by all means leave comments if you want to make changes, suggestions, big or small, then that's welcome in the comments section below. Perhaps you're new to collecting DRUKHARI or you haven't collected them before, or you're thinking about collecting them, then check out the comments section, see what people are saying in the comments section below. If you enjoy this series and you enjoy this video, please hit the thumbs up and leave a comment. It really helps the video out. And if you're not subscribed yet to the channel, then do subscribe. So this is going to be 2,000 points, the size of this army. I'm not going to cover all the units in here inside the book, so check out the full Codex review and Tactica. That's live on the channel if you want to check out all of the units that are available here. So, brand new Codex. My opinion is that DRUKHARI have improved. It seems all the units have received an upgrade. So some very nasty firepower available from them. Some very nasty tactics for some of the units, which we'll cover. And then some of the HQ choices, the combinations that you can go for now are very cheap and ridiculously powerful. So DRUKHARI certainly are a force to be reckoned with for sure with their new Codex. They've been described as one of the glass hammer armies, so they can strike hard, but like glass they're prone to shattering, and if you get a bad turn, your opponent catches them out in firepower, or with firepower in close combat, all of a sudden your force can shrink very quickly. So the key with DRUKHARI, and sort of talking about the philosophy of the army here, is to try and cut down your vulnerability by limiting that time frame where the opponent can strike you first before you can strike them. So you need to move quickly with the DRUKHARI, have decent firepower, I think it's a key element, and then maneuver quickly and then be able to strike fast in the battle. You can't linger with these. I think it needs to be a well organised plan and then strike hard and fast. And then that will compensate for the glass hammer element. The last thing you want to see is your army shattered. And that can happen. If you get caught out, your stuff can be destroyed very quickly. Perhaps your transports are destroyed, your infantry all in the wrong position on the battlefield. So a good plan, swift manoeuvring, decent firepower, and then hard hitting, sort of clever attacks in close combat as well. Well timed close combat assaults with the DRUKHARI, because even in close combat, many of their units, they strike hard, but you don't really want to be in a position where you're being hit back hard. So similar with like a pirate kind of theme with the DRUKHARI, sort of striking from nowhere. It's maybe seen as the weaker aggressor, but they can strike very hard and fast. So there's that pirate kind of theme going on with these. So trying to echo that with the list that I have for you. So we'll build up the army step by step, just going into the logical order. We'll talk about army structure first of all, a bit about the overall battle plan, I think, as we get going with this DRUKHARI force. And then I'll bring the units in. I just mentioned at this stage, if you like the look of the DRUKHARI force, then there is a full painting tutorial for them on the channel. It's an older one, it's been done a number of years ago, but if you search on the channel you'll find it. So I think it's Dark Eldar painting tutorial, and that'll show you the basing, colour scheme, all of the techniques available for that colour scheme, and you're welcome to copy that step by step as well. So the detachment I've gone for is a raiding force. Now Games Workshop, the way they've structured the Codex, they encourage you to take one of each, so a Cabal, a Witch Cult, and then an Homunculus Coven. So all three of those, and then it unlocks other benefits. I'm not so keen on Homunculus Covens, so I'm just going to go for a patrol of from a Cabal, and then a patrol from a Witch Cult, and run it that way. So my structure of the list is going to be a double patrol, so one of each. It still unlocks plenty of abilities, it's not too bad, but if you really want to max out what the Codex has to offer, then it's that variety there that you need to go for: Cabal, Witch Cult, and then Homunculus Coven, and that unlocks some extra abilities. But it doesn't bother me too much, really. I think DRUKHARI are strong enough there. So double patrol. Now if every detachment in your army is DRUKHARI patrol detachment, change the command cost of those detachments to 0 CP. So there's a big incentive to at least go for patrols for your lists, which is what I've done. Double patrol, that's going to cost me 0 CP, so I'm starting with 12, and then for this list I spend 2 command points on 2 extra Warlord Traits, and an extra command point being spent on a second relic. So it's going to drop me down to 9 command points available, which is a very healthy amount. So plenty of command points to spend on stratagems and rerolls and so on throughout the game. So you're off to a very healthy start with this list. 9 command points is very good. So the elements to this list here, and bearing in mind the way 9th edition works, 9th edition is about board control, objective control, and controlling more of the table than your opponent. Previous editions has been about just destroying as much of the enemy as possible. It's still a major aspect to it, but you can't ignore board control, objective control, and you've got to do it quickly. That's the way 9th edition works. You've got to move fast and effectively across the battlefield. So DRUKHARI is suited for that. They've got the speed. Durability is a little bit of an issue, but you can compensate for that by plunging into your opponent nice and quick, and that cuts down the time that they have to shoot at your army and cause damage. So the elements to my list then is going to be Maneuverability, so you're going to see that my list is nice and quick, moving across the battlefield. And secondly, Firepower is going to play a major aspect, so covering firepower. Can't just go in for the assault with no support. I need the firepower to try and soften the opponent up. And then the other element is close combat. So those are 3 aspects: Maneuverability, firepower, and then close combat. So you're going to see that reflected in the structure of this list and the units that have been chosen. So that's the structure of the army. We're referring back to these rules a bit later on, but we'll get to the units now. And I'll go HQ choices first, and we'll build up the Cabal here first of all. So the first patrol detachment, and what I want to get to is choice of Cabal. Now I've changed what I used to run. I was running, I think it was Black Heart. Here, I've now switched to Poison Tongue, and the main reason for that one, I haven't taken any of these relics of Warlord Traits here. The minor bonus, it's easy to forget, but if you destroy an enemy model with an attack made by poisoned weapon, then it's -1 from combat attrition tests. Quite easily forgotten in the middle of the game, but the main reason here for taking Poison Tongue here is each time model of this obsession makes an attack with a poisoned weapon, so it's either in close combat like agonizers for example, or poisoned weaponry like splinter rifles, improve the poisoned weapon ability of that weapon by 1 to a maximum of 2+. So poisoned weapon 4+ becomes a 3+. For example, I've got a lot of splinter cannons in my list, and wounding on 3+ is a vast improvement. So I've gone for Poison Tongue just to help with that key element of my list, which is firepower, just needing to make that as effective as possible. So with that in mind, we'll make a start here. So HQ choice, I used to run 2 Archons, like a father and son thing going on. I just need the 1 now, so I'm going to run 1 Archon, and I'll bring all the models in so that you can see them on the battlefield. It's this one here. This is one of the old lead models that came in a blister pack. I think you got 2 in the pack here, but I've got this one. He's modelled with an agonizer, but I'm going to run him with something else here for this list. We'll put him on. My 3 HQ, I'm going to run 3 HQ choices here for this list. All 3 of them are very important elements of the army. The main reason for taking them is a little bit different to other armies, not so much the buffs of how they're able to help out other units, but purely because of what they can actually do, especially in close combat. Very, very nasty units indeed. So to the point where I actually think they're game changers on the battlefield. So Archon here, I mean the stat line now is fantastic. 8-inch move, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+. It's 5 wounds, 5 attacks as base, which is superb. 4 up save. Come with a shadow field, a 2+ invuln save. It can't be re-rolled for any reason, but a 2+ invuln save is exceptionally good. There's the Blade Artist's rule now for DRUKHARI, so any 6s to wound. In close combat is an extra AP -1. Nice little bonus being added in. And there is the Aura ability. It's not as good as it was. It's re-roll 1s for carbal units within 6 inches. That's in close combat and for shooting. But it's only going to affect core units, so things like Carbonite Warriors, but not things anymore like your Venoms and your transport vehicles and flyers and so on. They'll not benefit from it. So in the previous list, he used to sort of be in the centre of the army, making the most of his aura bubble, but now it only affects a limited number of units, very limited really. So his roles change now. He's sort of more of an HQ choice that can get stuck in and actually do something on the battlefield himself. So I want to try and equip him to have an impact in close combat. So the main focus with him, just to make him as powerful as an HQ choice as possible. So I'll run through all the points. 65 points for him. First thing I do is take a blast pistol. 5 points, just a no-brainer to take it. 6-inch range pistol 1, but it's strength 8 -4 d6 damage. Fantastic pistol. You can use it in close combat on his turn as well. So only 5 points to take that. Then I also take, I'm going to pay the points for a Husk Blade on him, so 5 points. Husk Blade here, strength user, so strength 3, -2 and 2 damage. We're going to improve that a bit later on with a relic. So then, just thinking of ways of improving this model as much as possible. So the main focus for him used to be his influence, as a lot of HQ choices are for the different factions, but now I've changed it for him. I actually want to make him where he's actually a standalone unit that can fight very well. So I paid the points here for Carbonite Diversion. So 15 points you have to pay for this. And you get once per battle at the end of the fight phase. If this model is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight again. So that's huge. You know, fighting twice is very powerful in 40k. So 15 points, I think it's well worth going for that. Also unlocks the ability for the Archon to take Trueborn, I believe. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, for each Master Archon unit in your army, 1 unit of Carbonite Warriors can become Trueborn. We'll cover that a bit later on. It unlocks the ability to take them, so it's 15 points, ability to fight twice, and it lets you take Trueborn as well. So we've got a decent pistol now. You can fight twice, which is good. The Husk Blade is a bit mediocre, so there's a few things we're going to do to try and improve, and that's going to use a Warlord Trait and a Relic, just to make a huge difference with him. So Warlord Traits, yeah. So I've gone for, with him, and you can make your own suggestions about this. Some may disagree with the combination I've gone for, but it's proved quite useful. Played a couple of friendly games, and this combination has worked quite well. So Ancient Evil for the Warlord Trait. At the start of the fight phase, you can select one enemy unit within engagement range of this Warlord. That unit is not eligible to fight this phase until all other eligible units from your army have done so. So you're going to get to fight first, and that's pretty. It is a game changer. It's big. You've got a very, very powerful unit, powerful monstrous creature or character, and you charge into them with him, and then he's able to shut them down and stop them from fighting. Interrupt play. He stops that. You're going to force that unit to fight last. He's going to get his attacks in and other supporting units as well. So I think a key point in the game that is very, very crucial. And something else. If he locks that unit down, it then takes the worry about that combat and lets you choose to fight first somewhere else. So if your opponent does interrupt play, you've got your key combat going ahead. So it seems to have worked quite well during the game for me so far. So I'm going to take that Ancient Evil and just use him to shut units down during the game in close combat. So sort of tactical choice going on there. And then I need to improve his weapons. He's got a bit more of a bite in close combat. So take the Husk Blade and replace it with the Jin Blade just here. You get +1 strength, so that's a big improvement. You're going to go from strength 3 to strength 4. AP -3, so a bit more off the armour. And damage 3 instead of damage 2, which is excellent. And on top of that, each time the bearer fights, you get 2 additional attacks with this weapon. So he's now on 7 attacks with the Jin Blade. It's a massive, massive improvement. And remember, 7 attacks, and then combining that with the ability to fight twice, you've got the potential 14 attacks from him. Coming in at 2s, and a damage 3 weapon, I think is really good. At the end of close combat, you roll a dice. If you roll a 1, you'll take a mortal wound just for carrying that weapon. But there he is. He's not suited to every target, but he's dangerous enough. If he gets stuck in against a character, shut them down, won't let them interrupt play, gets to all of his attacks, gets to fight again with a damage 3 weapon, AP -3. I think that's a deadly enough combination from him. So he's not the Warlord. Something that's been pointed out, I'm not going to make him the actual Warlord here. He's going to take a Warlord trait, but he won't be the Warlord for this list. I have to hand that over, just the way the army's going to work here. I'll hand that over to one of the named characters. So maybe he's like a disciple, or he's on the verge of commanding his own army, but there's going to be another HQ that would become the actual Warlord here for this list. That's the Archon. Total points spent for him is 85 points, 65 points, 15 points Master Archon, 5 points for Blast Pistol, and then 5 points for the Husk Blade, Jin Blade relic for him. So, I'm going to take a second HQ choice within the Cabal here. That's my favourite unit, favourite model at the moment. Here he is, it's DRUKHARI, Master of Blades. So if you're a DRUKHARI collector or player, then if you don't have this model yet, it truly is a fantastic model. Exceptionally happy with how he's come out paint job wise, superbly sculpted. The artwork, or the sculpting work on this is fantastic. So really excited to be in Games Workshop re-sculpting some of the classic characters, given the complete makeover, and they look fantastic. So far they've done a good job for all the models they've released. So DRUKHARI, another key HQ choice here. He is an absolute butcher, if you're able to use him effectively on the battlefield. So for him it's a flat points cost of 135 points, but for what he can do is a beast. So for that you're getting movement 7. Something to bear in mind, just another thing to bear in mind here. So power from pain, so you get inured to suffering. Units, models in this unit have a 6+ invulnerable save, so I think that's just across the board. So vehicles in close combat get it and so on, so that's helpful. But number 2, eager to flay. Units, this unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they advanced. So bearing that in mind, it's very doubtful you're going to get turn 1 charges going ahead unless the opponents come right towards you. So I'm building this list to go for potential charges on turn 2, and that's going to link up nicely with the power from pain. You're going to get to advance and charge. So for units like him, 7-inch move, deploy from a transport, another 3, and then an advanced move on top of that. You've got a nice stretch for charge distances with him. Movement, so weapon skill ballistics got 2+, strength 4, toughness 4. He's got 6 wounds, loads of wounds, 5 attacks as base, fantastic, 2 up armor save. He's much improved. He can go for the single blade with his executioner's demiclaves, so he's +2 strength. He's going to fight at strength 6, AP -3, 3 damage, fantastic. Or dual blades, he can take an extra 2 attacks and go for +1 strength, -3 and 2 damage. So he's a Primaris, absolute killer. He's got blade artists, and his 6 is coming through to wound as an extra AP -1. This is the potential of AP -4. Murderous assault, he can fight again in each fight phase, which is ridiculous with him. So again, another HQ choice with the potential of 14 attacks in the turn. Ancient Warrior, it's -1 damage against him as well, so adding to his durability. He's got a 4+ invuln save. It used to be 5+, so he's improved on that. And then Tormentors here, another opportunity to make units fight last. You need to beat the leadership, and if you do, that unit can't fight until all other eligible units have done so. And then on top of that, Master of Blades, it's an aura ability. A friendly incubus unit within 6 inches of him, they get +1 to their wound roll, which is huge. You're trying to wound a vehicle on 5s, all of a sudden it becomes 4s. you're trying to wound Primaris Marines on 3s, it becomes 2s, so that kind of bonus, very much welcome indeed. So Drazhar, Master of Blades, a highly recommended HQ choice, utterly deadly. There's a way to make him even better. You have to take him as the Warlord because he's a named character, I believe, and then you're going to give him a Warlord trait. Yeah, it's here. So, named character, Drazhar, Hatred Eternal. You don't get to choose. He has a fixed Warlord trait, but Hatred Eternal. Now, some people have said, "Well, take it on the Archon," but I want to keep it on him. Each time this Warlord makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll and the wound roll. So now you've got exceptional reliability of him in close combat. 2s to hit, rerolling 1s. He should be getting all of his hits. And then to wound, he's going to be on +1 to his wound rolls. That benefit affects him. And then combine that with rerolling your wounds. You know, for example, 3s to wound, rerolling. 2s to wound, rerolling. Any failed wound rolls is exceptionally good. So exceptionally good. Just means if you put him into close combat, you shouldn't flop. You know, you get a series of terrible dice rolling. It's going to be very, very unlikely. 2s to hit rerolling 1s. You know those hits are going to come through, and then there's a very high chance of him wounding with that +1 to the wound rolls. Already coming in at strength 6 or strength 5, and then +1 to the wound roll on top of that as well. And it's all rerollable. Just exceptionally good, and it's, you know, it's high damage weaponry. So you could happily plunge him into a unit of 10 intercessors. And with the ability to fight twice, there's every chance he'll hack them all down in close combat. That's how dangerous and nasty he is. So he does get power from pain. Should do, yeah. So you can advance and charge on turn 2, and all the other benefits that flow on it turn after turn. So there is a stratagem, because I'll try and mention as much as I can here just to help you out as you build your own list. But there is a stratagem here. Just check to see if you can take it. Hunt from the shadows. Use the stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when a DRUKHARI unit from your army has the benefits of light cover. So you can get him into light cover. You can give him an additional 1 to his saving throws. So, you know, +2 for being cover on top of a 2-up armor save. It's a sneaky and a very effective way of protecting him, so he operates very well in close combat. So that's Drazhar, Master of Blades. But 2 HQ choices been taken for this patrol. So great thing about HQ choices, you can bury them away, hide them in transports, bury them behind units and so on, and then bring them out to fight when required. So they're very straightforward to protect them on the battlefield, and then that will help you shield them, and then you can deliver them at the right time. So troops choices then. We'll build this up with Carbonite Warriors, but I'm going to take these, because of him, I'm going to take this as a unit of Trueborn. And with Carbonite Trueborn here, you're going to get +1 ballistic skill, so you're going to have a unit now hitting on 2s to shoot, extra leadership, and then each time you make a ranged attack, you ignore any or all hit roll and ballistic skill modifiers. So 2s to hit, and you're going to be hitting on 2s, whether it's shooting against a flyer or there's some psychic power shenanigans going on. Just going to ignore all of that, just going to hit on 2s, and if he's nearby and these are on foot, then you're going to get to reroll 1s as well. So you've got a base here for building a shooting infantry unit that's very, very accurate with its firepower, exceptionally accurate if you're ignoring all the modifiers and so on. So I'm going to run these as a unit of 10. It's going to unlock some choices for them. So we'll bring the models in here. It'll look something like this. So, and then I'll put him in. Now 10 Carbonite Warriors looks something like that. So they have improved. They're now running at an extra attack, which is okay. I'm not expecting them to do that well in close combat. But having said that, they do get blade artists. So a little bit of sting with them in close combat. So now they're getting 2 attacks each, and then a little bit of AP -1 available for them. There's a 4+ armor save for them. It used to be 5+, so they have improved here. 7-inch move. So I'm taking it at 10. Obviously going to give them the splinter rifles, and then I'm going to take in these for shooting, and it's from range preferably. So I'm not going to give any kind of pistols, blast pistols and so on to the HQ or the squad leader. The Cyberite, I'll just leave him as he is. But what I want to take here is, for every 10 models in the unit, one warrior's splinter rifle can be replaced with a dark lance or splinter cannon. So I'm going to take a dark lance. Already modelled up. It hasn't really featured in my list for a long time because, as you know, 3s to hit, if you move it's -1 and so on, so it just meant that it's not very reliable firepower. But now all of a sudden 2s to hit no matter what, even if he moves, he's still going to get to hit on 2s. That is exceptionally reliable, and so I'm happy to take that. And then looking to engage with sort of long to medium range. Medium range is good enough, so I'm going to, for every 5, I think it says, for every 5 models, you can take a blaster. So I'm going to put 2 blasters in the list as well, and again hitting on 2s, I think it's the best way to add in your firepower here. So if you're on foot, because I mechanised mine, so I'm keeping mine at 10, but you can go up to a larger unit of 20, so you can get 4 blasters in the squad and 2 splinter cannons. It's quite a nasty shooting bubble available with them, but you cut down with your movement, obviously, moving 7 instead of being inside the transport vehicle. So I just go for unit 10, take them as trueborn, and I've loaded them up here with some heavier weapons. So very happy with that. That fulfills what's required for this patrol. One HQ choice and then 1 troops choice. But I'm going to keep on going with the Carbonite Warriors here. So I'm going to run in this list another unit 5. This is a common combination here for DRUKHARI players. Another unit of 5 here, so 2 more units of 5. No upgrades for them at all, except taking a blaster in each squad. It's a common loadout here for DRUKHARI players. So I'm sort of taking heavy firepower in this list, but scattering it amongst all of the units as much as possible. So there's a pistol buried in here, some firepower, decent firepower buried in all of these units. So to wipe out all my heavy guns, the opponents, instead of picking off a couple of key units, my firepower is spread throughout the army, so that helps to preserve your list here. The opponent's got to try and, if he wants to get rid of all the firepower, they've got to go for all the units, which makes it a lot more difficult. If you had like a Devastator Squads type unit, the opponent can pick on that, wipe it out, and all of a sudden you've lost a lot of your heavy firepower. So one of the tactics here for the DRUKHARI is to spread your firepower around your units as much as possible. And then you can combine, you know, these units can gang up on a target, so I'll bring in half a dozen units, position them all, spread out across the battlefield to target one particular unit, and then they'll contribute all that firepower coming in from different sources combines together to bring the target down. That's the idea. So got a bit of firepower, objective holders, infantry squads, useful enough. Flexibility here being split up into a couple of smaller squads. Now maneuverability and protection is next, and to fulfill that you need transport vehicles. So my army's mechanised here, it's all going to be on transport vehicles, so it can manoeuvre around the battlefield nice and quickly. Manoeuvring to grab objectives, manoeuvring for firepower to get into position to shoot effectively, and then manoeuvring to get into position to assault as well. Units are going to burst out of the transport vehicles and make their attacks. Not so much these, but certainly my HQ choices and some of the Witch Cult units. So we'll make these up. First thing I'll add in is a Raider here. So there's the model. Glorious kit here. Games Workshop, exceptionally good job that they did revamping the DRUKHARI those years ago. Just fantastic models produced. Really was some difference to the previous models here. But one Raider, and again we'll zoom out later on and take a look at the whole footprint of the army. So the Raider's going to go with the, we'll bring it up here. It's going to go with the larger unit of Carbonite Warriors. Transport vehicle. So you're looking at 10 wounds, 4 up save. You know, they're not that tough. There's a 5+ in 1 save, which will certainly help you out at times. I take the Dark Lance on the front. It's a weapon we're going to talk about here in this video. It's range of 36. Strength of 8, -4, and now it's not D6 damage, but D6 plus 3, so very reliable with damage. That old D6, very random, you can get 1 wound, you can cause 6, but now you're going to get between 4 and 6 wounds every time with the Dark Lance, so definitely worth taking that. And again, same idea, spread the firepower out. So yes, there's only 1 Dark Lance on this, but there's going to be multiple vehicles taking it, and that just helps to spread those heavy weapons across add my units. So speed, movement 14, so nice and quick around the table, which is excellent. Transport capacity is 11, so space to take the full squad of 10 plus an HQ choice. Maybe the Archon might join them, and so if the transport blows up, I'll be rolling 11 dice, and any ones being rolled will not be the Archon, it will go on to members of the squad here. So it's a way of protecting HQ choices by surrounding them with other models whilst inside the transport. So that's them mechanised up. And then I'm running a number of Venoms. Actually going to run 4 in this list. Again, a popular transport choice for DRUKHARI players. So, different units will share these throughout the game, but I want to keep them all within inside this patrol because I've got a lot of splinter or poisoned weaponry here. So I'm going to run a Venom as double splinter cannon. So 65 points plus 10, so 75 points each. So 300 points been spent on these. I'm going to put 1 in for this unit, Carbolight Warriors. Because you have to take 1 dedicated transport per unit, so I've got to spread them out that way. The second one going to the other unit of Carbolight Warriors. I want Drazar to take his own personal Venom. He may well not use it, but he enables me to take that in the list. And then the Archon unlocks the ability to take another of those. And it keeps them all within the Poison Tongue Carbol, and then it means that all of their poison weaponry is going to be wounding on 3 pluses instead of 4 pluses. So now the army's getting mechanised up, seriously mechanised up here. Venom's coming in at 16-inch moves, so very swift around the battlefield. Excellent units for scooting around and grabbing your objectives on the flanks and then just laying down a blanket of firepower. These vehicles are open-topped, so units that are inside, especially shooting units here, can shoot whilst inside the vehicle, which is very, very useful. So Splinter Cannon has changed. It's range 36, so excellent range. You can sit back, hold your objectives and so on. Heavy 3, used to be Rapid Fire 3. So no major incentive to get too close to the opponent now. It's just going to be 3 shots. In my case here, taking the double splinter rifle, it's going to be 6 shots coming from each of these. Strength 3, but it's poison 4 plus becomes 3 plus poison tongue. A little bit of AP -1, didn't used to be, so AP -1. And damage 2 now, instead of damage 1. So a little bit of Primaris killing ability with those. You're not going to wipe out you're going to wipe out whole units, but they're just going to keep that firepower coming. 6 shots, and then 6 and 6 and 6, so you're just stacking up the firepower coming from these transport vehicles. So I think they're exceptionally useful units. A 5+1 save available from them. It is -1 to hit them, I believe. Yeah, it's here. Flicker field, it's all built in. So -1 to hit, and then a 5+1 save against ranged attacks as well. So that's what during the game, they're there to move out, hold objectives, supporting firepower for the assaulting units, and that's their job, and as much as possible to protect the units that they're carrying. So very happy with them. That's the mechanised part of the army here. So we'll go back to troops. That's all the troops done for this carbon. Then within this patrol, I'm also going to add in the Incubi. It's a no-brainer to add them in with Drazar, Master of Blades. They've been resculpted as well from lead to plastic. And again, if you don't have these yet, beautifully done. I was a little bit sceptical, thought, I'll just use the old metal models, but these are very, very good indeed. You won't regret painting these up. Beautifully sculpted. So Unit 5. At this stage, I'll just mention I do pay the points for another raider, so a second raider being taken. When we zoom out later on, you'll see how I plan in most games to transport the units around, but it frees up a raider, another 10 or 11 model transport capacity. So, Incubi, I think these have improved. They're now boasting 3 attacks each, and their weapon skill is 2+. Across the board, so all of the units here boasting a 2+ weapon skill, so they're mightily improved. They're fantastic. Keep the 3-up armor save. The Clavex is on 4 attacks and 2 wounds, so you can go for the Clave here for 4 of the models, giving you +2 strength, so fighting at strength 5, -3, 2 damage. So again, they're Primaris killers in a big way. The Clavex, you can run demi-claves. So single blade is +2 strength, -3 and 2 damage. Dual blades is +1 strength, -2 and 2 damage, but you get an additional 2 attacks, so potential 6 attacks with him. They got blade assist as well, so any 6s to wounds, further AP -1s, you've got the potential of AP -4 here for the Clave. You've got lethal precision. Whilst this unit contains a Clavex, each time melee attack is made by a model on this unit, an unmodified wound roll of 6, you get +1 damage to the attack as well, so they really are nasty enough. And remember, if I combine that with Drazar, it's going to give them +1 to their wound rolls, so strength 5 coming in against Primaris Marines means they're going to be wounding on 2s in close combat. So a small unit boasting adds a lot of attacks coming through at a nice reliable rate and reliable to wound as well. Tormentors is available with them, another chance to try and pin a unit down with those. Yeah, I'm just looking. So you can run them as a unit of, doesn't tell you yet. It just says if unit contains 6 or more models. So I guess they've changed now, the new codexes at the back. But I need to check it. It's a minimum of 5, and then you can go up to 10 models, I believe, with them. Now 10 of them would be utterly deadly. The thing is, your opponent's going to know that. try and, wherever they're hiding, whatever transport vehicle they're in, the opponent's going to try and shoot them down as quick as possible. Points, and I'll catch up with the points on these. I think we've covered everything. Incubi then, I just take a unit of 5. They're coming out to 80 points. I think that's cheap for what they can do. 80 points is very, very cheap indeed. The idea with these is I'm investing in units that are high impact but cheap, because I know that in response, if the opponent gets to respond to them in close combat, it's going to cut them down. You know, their toughness 3 up armor save, often the opponents can have AP minus weapons there, it's going to hack them down. So I'm just trying to look for sending the unit in, as much impact as possible, and if they survive any longer after that, I'll take it as a bonus. So you often see that the Incubi, just hurl them into close combat, let them do their damage, and then anything after that is a bonus, but not expecting them to survive very long. And so therefore I just invest in a smaller unit. So this Incubi are in. One of my nastier close combat units. Yeah, we'll cover those later on. Yes, so just in order here. So fast attack, I'm bringing back a unit that's been shelved. It's been in my box of models here for DRUKHARI for a long time. I've tried bringing them back in different editions, just struggled. They're fantastic, beautiful models, and it's been a real tragedy, but they are back now. And I think they're very welcome back into the list. I think they're going to serve an important role. I'm just going to run a unit of 5 of these. But they're glorious models. Another fantastic plastic sculpt here from Games Workshop. Very impressive range for the DRUKHARI now. So you hope all the factions get this treatment, but there's a squad leader. So Scourges or Scourges, I think Scourges I'll call them here. Movement 14. They actually jump further than I was thinking. I thought they were 12. So 14-inch jump with them. 4 up armor save. So this is a unit I'm not expecting to survive too long on the battlefield. So I'm expecting them to make an impact, do something, and then not expecting too much after that. So the reason for taking these, first of all, is winged strike. They can deep strike onto the battlefield. So they've got the element of landing anywhere on the battlefield. So it adds more tactical flexibility to my army. If I need a unit to drop somewhere, maybe for a tactical reason, or to bring down some firepower, then these can just land. As long as they're more than 9 inches away from enemy models, then they are free to land anywhere on the battlefield. So, first reason for taking these is the tactical option. So the deep strike ability, and then the ability to try and pick up points for secondaries and primaries as well. And if there's a lonely objective somewhere, I can bring them down on top of it. As if there is secondary being taken, such as engaging all fronts, you know, the controller table quarters, and there's a table quarter I don't have a controller or a unit in that table quarter, I can just simply drop them down and they can help towards victory points. or Line Breaker, for example. They could be one of the units that helps out with that. And then the other secondary, which I've been using a fair bit recently, it's Deploy Scramblers, and that requires you to perform an action in your own deployment zone, 6 inches from either deployment zone, so no man's land, and then one action being performed in the opponent's deployment zone. And so they are a useful unit for doing that, especially the action that needs to be performed in the opponent's deployment zone. So they can come down, land, perform the action, and then fly off and continue to fight in the game. So a tactical choice of these. I'm going to run these perhaps a little bit different to what other people run them, but I'd love to hear combinations that people go for these. But I'm just going to take a unit of 5, and the great thing about these is up to 4 Scourges can have their shard carbines replaced with the following. So a small unit can take a big loadout here of shooting weapons. Now I guess blasters would be a popular choice. Dark Lances not so much, because if you move it's -1, you're hitting on 4, it's not very reliable at all. I'm actually going to take Shredders. I've never taken them before, but I'm going to take them for this unit. The Shredder is range 18, so the range is fine, you can deep strike down. Assault D6, so that is excellent. So I've got 4 D6 shots coming through. Strength 6, which is great, you know, against infantry. You're moving on 3s, if not 2s. It's AP -1, a little bit of AP -1, which is great. 1 damage, and then the other one that sealed the deal here, it's a blast weapon. So if I bring these down, trying to clear out a Hordes unit with blast, that's a potential 24 shots coming through with these. Strength 6, -1, 1 damage. I think that's fantastic. Cheap firepower available with these. The other way to use them is to drop down and pick off isolated characters, or characters that find themselves on the wrong side of units, you know, if you look out Sir and so on. So, you know, 4d6 shots, strength 6, -1, AP. They could, a medium character, they could bring him down in a surprise attack. So multiple roles for the Scourges, tactical choice, firepower available from them. So they come in at 60 points to the unit, and then Shredders are cheap. They're 5 points times 20 points, 80-point unit that I can use for tactical / firepower here with these. I'm just wondering, yeah, the shard carbine. So the squad leader's carrying a shard carbine. It's actually a poisoned weapon, so 3s to undo that as well. And it's assault 3, it's another 3 shots available as well. Brilliant. So that's the Scourges there. I'm really glad to see them back in the list. Just add a nice unit of interest into the army as well. So very, very, very happy to have them back in the army. But as I said, if you've got a certain combination you like to go for with these, maybe you bump up the size of the unit to try and protect the firepower, then by all means discuss that in the comments section below. So moving along, there's still a fair bit to go in this patrol. So I'll take the Ravager. I was about to drop it from the army, so here he is, purely for firepower support. That's it. You can anchor an objective at the back of the table. I'll take the Dark Lancers with him. Movement 14. There's 11 wounds instead of 10. 4 up save. But he can anchor an objective at the back and then use the Dark Lancers to support with firepower. I was going to drop him because not getting the reroll ones anymore. The Archon being nearby, that combination used to make the firepower quite good. But now with damage D3 plus 3, I think it's well worth keeping him in the list. So 3 Dark Lancers comes in at 140 points, which I think is pretty cheap for what you get. So the Ravager is in, and the idea is that the opponent's trying to deal with other units that are moving up more aggressively. He becomes a lower priority, and therefore he survives a bit longer, and he can just keep that firepower coming throughout the game. But it's scary, the damage that can come from the Ravager. Yeah, that damage D3 plus 3 is utterly deadly. So 3 more Dark Lancers being added to the list. So if you look at the army now, you've got blasters. I've got, so for Dark Lancers for example, I've got 1 in this squad, 1 on each raider, 3 from here, so I've got 6 Dark Lancers. And then I've got blasters, 1 in each Carbonite Warrior squad, 2 in this squad, and a blast pistol as well. So you see the firepower, there's a lot of heavy guns, but it's all spread throughout the list. So Ravager is in. And then we've covered the transport vehicles. So flyers. I really like to try and put together an army that just has a good feel about it, a good look to it, and I really think without flyers this DRUKHARI army would just be lacking something, just the visual side of it. And the most impact is the Void Raven bomber. It's a huge, graceful jet fighter bomber that moves across the battlefield. The kit is fantastic. So they're in the list. But look at this thing. Beautiful. Really, you know, the double cockpit here. With all the glass and so on. Just a fantastic model. So I just couldn't leave these out of the list. They're in. And there's a potent, nasty ability that they have that sort of sealed their inclusion in the army. So I'm going to run 2 of them. And I love the idea with DRUKHARI that you've got this units that can swoop across an enemy army, causing trouble. There's a number of units that can do it. One of them is the Void Raven bomb. You've got to move across the enemy to unlock the ability, but it just has that element of the opponent their army just doesn't feel safe. You've got enemy units just flying across them and banking around and flying and zigzagging across them. I think it's a good psychological element to it. So 1, 2, it's fun as well. It's good fun. Just zooming over the enemy, dropping bombs. I think it's pretty good. So Void Raven bomber, 12 wounds, 4 up save. Not that durable. They are a distraction unit. I'm hoping the opponent will fire at these. With -1 to hit them. There's a lot of wounds to try and get through. There is the 5+ invuln save for Night Shield as well. So it's a fair bit of effort to bring both of them down. But if the opponent's firing at those, they're not firing at my transport vehicles as they're trying to manoeuvre into position. Just buys perhaps a little bit of a window of time as the opponent is hopefully distracted by these 2 large bombers that are on the battlefield. And there's a bit of pressure on the opponent to try and get rid of them, to try and destroy them before they're able to drop their Void Mine. So I run mine with 185 points each. The way the points work out in this army, and knowing that these are going to get shot at quite quick, and also that the missiles aren't that great. They're okay, but they're not that amazing. I therefore don't pay the points for the missiles, just take them as they come, in which case these are working at 185 points times 2 lots of 185. I take the Void Lances, so it's like a Dark Lance, but it's strength 9 instead of strength 8, so very useful against targets like Land Raiders and many of the Primaris vehicles. The main reason, or one of the main reasons for taking these, is the Void Mine. It's the potential to cause absolute havoc amongst the opponent's battle line. And there's nowhere to hide. You can zigzag across your opponent. You've got movement of 60 inches, and if you still need a bit more movement, you can advance on top of that as well. Yeah. Just checking. Yeah, 60-inch move. So, the Void Mine, once per battle, so it is 1 use only, but often what you'll find, opponents' armies, they cluster their armies together. They still do it in 9th edition, there's all buffs and bonuses going on, and you'll find a concentration of enemy units on the battlefield, so especially on the early turns of the game. So if you're able to fly across those, the way this works, once per battle in your movement phase, after the bearer makes a normal move or advances, you can select a point on the battlefield that the bearer moved across. So with the tip of the wing, anywhere it moved across in your movement phase, then you can choose that point on the table. So you can choose this point here, and then your range is measured from that point. There's no scatter, it just lands exactly where you want it to. After the bearer makes a normal move or advances, you can select 1 point on the battlefield that the bearer moved across, roll 1d6 for each unit within 6 inches of that point, subtracting 1 if that unit is a character keyword, excluding character, vehicle or monster units. On a 4+, that unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. So you fly across the middle of a Space Marine HQ with transport vehicles, HQ choices, infantry units, and you put that point in, and there's 6 units in there. That's 6 attempts at 4+ or 5+, and any hits that come through, it's d6 mortal wounds. So it's got the, if you roll well, it's got the potential to be very scary, causing a lot of damage. If you roll well, scary stuff. You can almost assassinate characters with it if you roll up well enough with the damage from the mortal wounds. I've got 2 flyers, so I could do it twice in the same spot and really blow a big hole out of the opponent's force. So very demoralising. If it happens, if they're effective in the early turns of the game, they fly across and they decimate the core of an opponent's army. It's very demoralising, just ruins all the auras and abilities going on and disrupts the enemy plans. So that fits in really well with the theme of this sort of pirate style army here. 2 Void Raven bombers, big presence on the battlefield, and a nasty sting in the tower available from them. So I think they're worth the investment, and I think there'll be times in games when they cause absolute havoc. And then if the opponent ignores them, it's going to be chucking out 2 lance shots each per turn, with the potential to cause heavy damage here. Even like it's damage D3 plus 3 again with this. So very, very good indeed. So Void Raven bombers are in. That completes the first patrol, and it's the majority of the list here, because I've put in all the dedicated transport vehicles and so on, supporting units, flyers are all inside this carball here for this force. So carball's complete. We'll move on to the second patrol. It's going to be a Witch Cult coming up next. So with the Witch Cult, we've covered all the points, so we'll just go to the Witch Cult here. So I've got some units, I've got lots of firepower now. I've got my entire army mechanised, so I've got that speed. I've helped the durability in protecting my HQs and softer infantry targets. Firepower has been addressed with flyers. And then transport vehicles kicking out their firepower. The infantry units with their blasters and dark lances, and then more dark lances on the transport vehicles themselves. For close combat so far, I've got Incubi and Drazar. They're effective enough. And then there's that Archon with a license to plunge into close combat. But I just want to bump up my potential in close combat here for this list. So I'll do that by taking Witch Cult, and it's Cult of the Red Grief I've gone for. It's difficult choices, you know, some great combinations you can go for. But I need to turn 1, manoeuvre my mechanised army, lay down a blanket of firepower, and then from that position, sort of the middle of the table, if not a little bit more behind it, break out from my transports and attack. So I need to be able to reach deep into the opponent's deployment zone to pick on the targets that I want to go for. So any help with that is greatly appreciated. So Witch Cults here, Cult of the Red Grief. You can reroll charge rolls made of units of this obsession, so that's some immediate help for these units by rerolling your charges. And then add 2 to advanced rolls made of units of this obsession. Now, remember, at turn 2 onwards, I can advance and charge. So now I've got the ability to disembark from a transport 3 inches, make my move, which is 8 inches with witches. I can then advance, which is going to be D6 plus 2, and then charge on top of that. So you've got a massive reach now from the transport vehicles with these Witch Cult units. The other reason for taking Cult of the Red Grief, which sealed it here for me, was the relic, the Blood Glaive, which I will take on the Succubus HQ choice. So we'll cover her first of all. As brilliant model from Games Workshop, and there she is, painted up in my DRUKHARI colour scheme. So another killer HQ choice, running 3 deadly HQ choices here for this list. So now with her you get movement 8, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2 plus, 5 wounds. Yeah, it's not so tough. So striking first is key and striking hard. 6 attacks as base, which is incredible. It does come with a invuln save, 4+ invuln save, and that's across the board, so for shooting and in close combat. There is Blade Artist for her. There's Combat Drugs, which we'll talk a little bit about that a bit later on. The Power from Pain is conferred to her, and then she grants reroll wound rolls of 1 for Witch Cult units, core units within 6 inches of her. It's okay, it's a little bit of a bonus, but it's okay. There's no escape ability. Opponent has to roll off to try and escape from her. So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, with Blast Pistol, says that she can take it. You look it up in the back, there's no point, so I'm guessing that she can take it free of charge. She swaps out the Agonizer and takes the Blast Pistol, which is fine. Now, look at this, the Archaic Glaive. +2 strength, so strength 5, 8 -3, but only 1 damage. This, half the time you're going to be fighting against a target that's got multiple wounds, and I'm looking for her to fight against tougher targets. So I then pay the points, the one command point to take the extra relic, the Blood Glaive. Look at the improvement on this. It's +2 strength, so she fights at strength 5, AP -3, and 3 damage, which is huge. Really, really good. So that's the relic. 6 attacks, and then Warlord Traits for these. So Witch Cult Warlord Traits, and again you can make your own suggestions. I like this one here, Precision Blows, in combination with this Blood Glaive relic. Each time unmodified hit roll of a 6 is made for a melee attack by this Warlord. She's got 6 attacks, remember, so on average you should get 1. I was fighting in a game the other day, she got 3 out of 6. And then look what it says here, the target unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of the weapon used for that attack, and the attack sequence ends. So now that she's carrying a damage 3 weapon, if you get that 6 to hit, it's 3 mortal wounds. If she gets 3 6s to hit, that's 9 mortal wounds. So is it a very, very nasty sting in the tail with the succubus as well. Now she is coming in at 60 points, absolute bargain, and the upgrades you can add on top is ridiculous. So 60 points for taking the blast pistol, so another heavy weapon being added into the list, and then that nasty glaive for her. I think that's everything. Yeah, we'll talk about combat drugs. Just mention it here. Perhaps you're new to the Codex or new to collecting DRUKHARI. So we'll cover that. That's at the start here actually. Different layout to these new codexes now. But it's at the start of the units, I believe. This one. Yeah, so you get your power from pain. Just to cover the other ones. Turn 3, you get +1 to your hit roll. So again, a massive encouragement in close combat because it's for melee attacks. And then Mantle of Agony at 5+ in Invuln save as the game goes on. That's turn 4 onwards. And then Emboldened by Bloodshed as well. It's auto pass morale. So combat drugs, the way they've changed it now is you can choose one if you wish, or if you randomise, you get 2. So I go for randomisation. So we're thinking about her, thinking about Witch Cult units. Adrenalite here, each time Sparrow fights, you get an extra attack. So for her that's really, really good. She'll get 7 attacks, brilliant. +1 strength, so she could fight at strength 6. Great, you know, she could wound on 2s, you know, guardsmen for example. Add 3, +2 movement, again very, very useful indeed. So movement 8 becomes movement 10. Then Painbringer, +1 toughness, add to her durability, +1 weapon skill. That really wouldn't help her unless she's fighting against something that's causing -1, then it'll cancel it out. And then Splinter Mind, +1 ballistic skill and leadership, which again doesn't really help unless you're targeting something with -1 to hit it, then that will help her out. But I go for the random there. I'm really looking around for +1 strength or toughness or move or extra attack coming through. Brilliant. Really good choice. Nice and cheap and effective. So 3, in my opinion, 3 very nasty HQ choices here. So then for troops, quite straightforward. 2 small units of witches, so 2 units of 5. Small units here. 1 and 2. Like so. You'll see how they're organised, how this list is organised. We'll zoom out and you get to see the whole lot. So for witches, big improvements with them. 3 attacks as base now. Fantastic. 4 attacks for the Hecatrix. Brilliant, just loads of attacks, really, really good. They then got Blade Artists. You got combat drugs available for these, so you can get your extra move, extra attack, and so on. Power from Pain available. Dodge is a 6+ Invuln save across the board, and then 4+ Invuln save in close combat. So the idea is to get them in close combat. They're very fragile, it's only unit 5. They'll get blown away very quickly, so I mechanise them up to keep them protected. They've got no escape special rule as well. Now the Hekatari Blade has vastly improved. You're getting extra attacks. Now they've got 4 attacks each. So you've got 21 attacks coming from this unit, small unit. And on top of that, there's AP -1 going on. So AP -1 to potential of AP -2 for any 6s being rolled as well. So a big improvement for them. The loadout I go for is there's 50 points a unit, 10 points each, and then the Hecatrix, I give the 4 attacks now. I give an Agonizer, just to add a little bit of bite in close combat. She won't get the +1 to the poisoned ability because she's not in the Cabal, but it's forced to wound with that. And then take a blast pistol. Again, a bit more heavy firepower spread out amongst the units, so 1 in each squad, 5 points a time for that. So agonizers and blast pistols for both squads. That makes them 60 points a time. Nice and cheap. Supporting units, they can go out and do their own attacks, which is plenty of attacks available for them, or they can combine the 2 units fighting together with the succubus. Pretty good potential. 60, 60 and 60. Very, very cheap close combat units indeed. And I may not always be charging them in. Yeah, I may not always be charging them in to do a lot of damage in close combat. It may be tactical choices. I may send them in to tap out vehicles, for example, and force the opponent to either pull away from close combat or to stay in close combat against them and shoot them down. And so there may be a tactical choice, tactical use for these. With the pistols, you can do things like maneuver the unit down in between enemy units, fire the pistol into a nearby vehicle, then charge into another unit. Things like that you can do. They've got grenades as well, so there's plasma grenades that can be thrown. So sort of cheeky little units that you can maneuver in amongst the enemy lines and use them to cause damage or as a tactical use for them as well. So that's the witches. There's one more unit to add in. I've covered all the points costs. This list comes to 2,000 points exactly, by the way. One unit that I've added in. It's Reavers, one of my favourite units of DRUKHARI. I'm very, very happy with how they've turned out for this colour scheme. I sort of split the colours either side. So you look on one side, they've got the blue, and you rotate them around, they've got the green. Just I like the way they've come out and just done these patterns on them here on the front. But that's the Reavers, beautiful models. So I'll put them here. Now this is a unit that's worth protecting on the battlefield. It's a tragedy if they get taken out quickly in the game, so I need to just tuck and hide them away. But I'm going to run a unit of 9. I used to run 3 units of 3, then I used to run a unit of 3 and a unit of 6. But I'm going to merge them now. Morale's not too much to be afraid of. Really, it's not too bad. So I'm going to take them as a unit of 9 of them. There's a reason for keeping them bigger. It's to take advantage of the stratagem that's available for them. You can get more value for the command point being spent. But Reavers here. So first up, movement 18. They're exceptionally quick across the battlefield. It's a good tactical option with these. Movements, just the usual. Toughness 4. They've got 2 wounds each and a 4-up save. So there is a measure of durability. There's 18 wounds to the opponent to try and get through this unit. They've got 3 attacks. I believe they've improved their attacks. Now let's just have a little look here. Yeah, each model is equipped with splinter pistol, splinter rifle and blade vanes. So blade vanes is here. So +1 strength, AP -1 and 1 damage. So fighting at strength 4 is very good. And then there could be combat drugs going on there as well to help that even more. You do get the blade artists. There's AP -1s coming through and 6s to win. Loads of attacks coming through at +1 strength, AP -1. And a bit of extra AP -1 coming through there as well. You've got combat drugs, as I mentioned, the potential with that. And then matchless swiftness. If you really need to get somewhere quickly, you've got a 8-inch guaranteed advance move. So 26-inch move with these. Super fast across the battlefield. As we've combined that with my Witch Cult, they're on +2 to their advance. So 28-inch move with these. If you get +2 on your combat drugs, you've got a 30-inch move. And then on top of that, turn 2 onwards, you can even charge with them after making a after making a 30-inch charge. Yep. So they're very, very quick. So you need to grab an objective quick. You could really catch an opponent's unit out very by surprise with these, how fast they move, because you're able to attack. Tons of attacks come through. You really could cause trouble. You could tap a key unit out, or you can try and assassinate a character. Try and isolate and assassinate a character with a very swift move across the battlefield. So, excellent. And then firepower, a little bit of firepower support with these as well, which you can use to support the rest of the army, or you can use it to isolate a certain unit or a character if you surround them and so on. Then I've gone for triple blaster here. For every 3 models, you can take a lancer or a heat lance. Some people saying take heat lances. Yes, it's points, I think, is the difference. Is why I chose to go for blasters. See, the heat lance is, yeah, that's the other reason. There's a couple of reasons I didn't quite go for the heat lance. We'll just cover this, the discussion here around what option to go for. Yeah, the heat lance is 10 points, the blaster's 5, right? So you're paying an extra, it's going to cost you an extra 15 points on the unit. So there's that reason, the cost. The other reason is they're heavy. And so every time I move, which I'm going to be moving every turn, it's going to be -1 to hit rolls. And also, the other thing that just gave me the reason not to take the heat lance is if I advance, I can't even shoot. And so, not so good. So I want to take the blaster instead, which is an assault weapon. Still nasty enough, strength 8, -4 d6 damage, and 3 of those shooting at a character. If they try and catch them out, it's going to cause big trouble. So the unit of 9, I've got a nice spread of units here for this list. Lots of units that can spread out and cover objectives. So I don't feel the need really to split the Reavers up. I'll keep them as a blob. One of the reasons it will help protect those heavier weapons, the opponent's got to try and slay 6 of them to get through to the 3 models that are carrying blasters. And the final reason for taking the larger unit is to take advantage of the stratagem, which the names remain the same, I believe, Eviscerating Flyby, which is here. So if it's 5 or fewer models, it only costs 1, so I will have to pay 2 command points to use this. Use the stratagem in your movement phase when you select a witch cult unit that can fly to make a normal move or advance. After this unit has moved, select one enemy unit this unit moved across, and roll 1d6 for each model in this unit, adding 1 to the result of its infantry. For each roll, yeah, this is really good. This is really good here, because there's no minus to hit characters. Each roll of 5+, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. Yeah. So I fly over a character. I'm going to get 9 dice, needing 4s to cause mortal wounds. So you might not be able to snipe that character out with firepower, and you may struggle to get to them in close combat, but I could fly up and over the top of them and get 9 dice, needing 4s to cause mortal wounds. And no matter what that character's carrying, you could have a 2-up armor save and a 3-up invuln save, doesn't matter, there's mortal wounds coming through. And so that is a very nasty sting in the tout. And again, it just adds to that theme of flying up and over your opponent with the jet fighters, and now with the Reavers, you know, just zooming across and dropping bombs and cutting people down. Just love the whole demoralising idea of that. So I want it to be a miserable experience for any enemy army that comes up against these pirates on the battlefield. But love the concept of that. Terrifyingly good. 9 models. You'd be looking at 4 or 5 wounds on average, mortal wounds coming through. Well worth it. And again, medium type character is going to find itself in serious trouble. So that's the list for the DRUKHARI. What we'll do now is we'll move out of the way, move the book out of the way, and then we'll arrange the army, and you can take a look at the final footprint of the list. I've covered as much strategy as I can. We've talked about upgrades. There's one thing I'll cover. I might as well just try and cover everything here. And you're very welcome to copy this list if you wish. I think it's a lovely representation of DRUKHARI. You've got a lovely mix of units. You've got Witch Cult, Cabal, your transport vehicles. There's nice HQ choices going on. You've got your flyers, Reavers. There's a nice feel about the list. So you're welcome to copy it. You can take an element of it. You can just copy one of the patrols if you want. Take some of the combinations that I've gone for, if you so wish. Yeah, this is what I want to cover here, actual battlefield tactics. So I've looked through these. The one that I think I'll use, you can choose one, is, so depending on who I'm up against, I may go for, to talk about the others, I may go for Assassinate's a good one. Picking out enemy characters fits very nicely with this pirate theme. And the other one, is deploy scramblers. So I use Carbonite Warriors mostly, maybe Witches, to fulfill that in my own deployment zone and the middle of the table during the game to perform that action with my small units, and then use the Scourges to drop down and complete. That's 10 points picked up for that secondary. So I'm liking the idea of those two. If it's enemy vehicles, there's a high presence of them, then I'll go for that. Bring it down, I think it's called. But the one chosen from here, it's very similar to the Necron one. It's Herd the Prey, Battlefield Supremacy. So score 2 victory points at the end of your turn for each table quarter that does not have any enemy units, excluding aircraft wholly within it. This objective cannot be scored on the first battle round. So you're trying to clear whole table quarters, similar to Purge the Vermin for the Necrons. Just fits nicely with this army, trying to slaughter everything. Big incentive to do that. And the other aspect of that is that your army is pushing up very quickly to the middle of the table quite boldly, and so therefore, even if you're just clearing half of the table at your side of the board, you're going to get 4 points a turn for that. So there's massive potential to max out on that quite effectively. We've heard the Prey secondary objectives. I think my secondaries are pretty much sorted out quite nicely for this list. And then so the demoralizing side of thing, which is a lot of abilities for the Drukhari that add all about demoralizing the opponent or the enemy force. As the game goes on and you're destroying more of the enemy's units, you're going to get rewarded for it. But empty parts of the battlefield start harvesting victory points for your army. That's depressing for the opponent. They're trying to fight against you, what they have, and then whilst they're not in certain parts of the battlefield, you're actually harvesting victory points for that during the game. So loving the idea of that secondary being chosen. But again, that's open for discussion. If there's certain secondaries you like to go for your Drukhari force, then by all means leave that in the comment section below as well. This is sort of your HQ for Drukhari on the channel. If you're up-to-date lists and tactics and so on, then use this as your resource on the channel, and the comments that people are leaving below as well. So that's everything. I think I've covered everything that I can here. I hope that's a help to you as you think about getting into Drukhari, or you're currently working on Drukhari, making that transition over from the old Codex. Then I hope this video is a help. We'll zoom out and take a look at the list. Alright, so that's the list here, just giving you a footprint of how the army looks on the battlefield. As you can see, all the transport vehicles around here, they've all been taken from that Cabal patrol detachment, take advantage of all the poison weaponry abilities. So you've got your 2 units of Carbolite Warriors here, the smaller squads with their blasters. The larger unit of Trueborn with their firepower, they'll go inside one of the raiders. And then Incubi with Drazar, Archon to go with the Carbolite Warriors. Succubus down here, the 2 units of Witches. I can pretty much spread these how I want. Go for different combinations. The small units of 5, for example, 1 unit of Witches, the Incubi and Drazar inside one of the raiders, and then Witches can absorb any ones if the transport's destroyed. So you've got that combinations, smaller combinations I can go for with the transport vehicles. There's the 2 flyers, just squeezing them onto the screen here. Those 2 there to provide some firepower support, and then some further firepower coming through from the Ravager, the large unit of Reavers, which is really good to see them as a good sized unit on the battlefield, and the Scourges are just over there in the top corner on the right hand side. A unit of them as a tactical choice being added in as well. But nice spread of variety here. The main aim for this Drukhari force, this glass hammer, so I want to get a move on in the game. I can't div around with these, so turn 1 is going to be manoeuvring the army into position to strike on turn 2, and then firepower support as well, and then multiple units to get into position, hold objectives, and then support the rest of the force as it goes in. And then I've got these fast units that can move right across the battlefield super quick and immediately start softening up the enemy. So the jet fighters, they swoop across the enemy first, and then the other turns, other units start moving in for close combat. Reavers, another unit that can fly across the enemy's position, maybe picking out characters and causing trouble immediately as well. And combine that with the speed of the Witch Cult units, the ability to disembark, move, advance and charge. I can reach deep into the opponent's deployment zone and their army. So that's the list here for the Drukhari. As mentioned, there's a painting tutorial for them on the channel, and then on the Plus channel there's an in-depth painting tutorial. I'll show you how to paint one of the Venoms that cover all the markings on the vehicles, basing, chipping effect and so on, that's all covered in that video. And then for more Tactica, I hope to do a top 5 unit video. There's the Codex review for these as well, and obviously all the battle reports featuring the DRUKHARI. Keep a lookout for new battle reports featuring this list and see how well they perform on the battlefield. But that's the video. Keep a lookout for more complete army videos in the future. Be sure to leave a comment, remember to subscribe to the channel, and a thumbs up is much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.